Hey guys, and welcome to Petrol Ped. Now apparently the car I'm sat in is socially unacceptable to some people, and it's not because it's a big SUV. There's another reason. I'm going to give you some hints, see if you can work it out. Hint number one, the rev counter in this car only goes up to 5,000 RPM. Hint number two, if you pop the fuel filler cap, the cover on the fuel filler cap is yellow. And hint number three, next to that fuel filler cap is a smaller one that's blue, and every now and again I have to put something called AdBlue in it. Any guesses why this car's unacceptable to some? Yes, it's because it's a diesel. Apparently, diesels aren't very good anymore and we shouldn't be buying them. Well, in this video I want to explain why I think we shouldn't discount diesel, and actually why I think the engine in front of me is one of the best engines I've driven in a long time. Now there was a time not that many years ago where, certainly in the UK at least, we were all encouraged to buy diesel cars. They were more efficient, they were more environmentally friendly, because although it's painful for some people to admit, diesel cars actually produce less CO2, carbon dioxide, the greenhouse gas that we want to reduce. They produce less CO2 than petrol engines in the majority of cases. So in terms of greenhouse gases, diesel engines are brilliant. And then it all kind of went a bit Pete Tong. Then we had Dieselgate, and it was apparent that some manufacturers were massaging their figures when it came to diesel cars, and although they might have been really good on CO2 emissions, what they weren't great at was nitrogen oxide emissions, and they were all higher than were being quoted, and it all blew up, and suddenly diesel became the devil. Now, there were regulations brought in many countries. In this country we had the Clean Air Act, and what that meant was that diesel engine manufacturers made more strides to make their cars more and more clean. And we had Euro 6 engines like the one in this Defender that actually, when you look at how they operate and when you look at tailpipe emissions, from a CO2 point of view, they're brilliant. It's not quite that easy though. And one of the biggest challenges with diesel engines, because of the way the combustion works compared with a petrol engine, yes, the CO2 emissions are less, but what diesel engines aren't great at is particulate emissions. You get these tiny, tiny particles, soot and those types of things from the combustion process. And when they come out of the tailpipe, they can cause problems in the air when humans breathe in, and they can create problems like asthma, and actually the really small particles might even be able to get into the bloodstream. So what diesel engine manufacturers did was create really effective particle filters that they put on their vehicles to remove as many of those particles as possible. And a diesel engine, modern day diesel engine with one of these particulate filters in, is going to be removing up to 99% of the particles. So there is a particulate issue compared with, let's say, a petrol engine. And if I were to look at the electric car in front of me, clearly that has no tailpipe emissions at all, right? Well, that's correct, but where's the electricity coming from for that electric car? Because it may well be generated by a coal-fired power station. And then it starts to get more and more complicated. So what happened to diesel was that it almost became the pariah. You couldn't have a diesel car, and we were driven towards the next thing is, let's get us all into electric cars or hybridized petrol cars. And diesel became unpopular, diesel became uncool. And about 12-18 months ago, the price of diesel fuel was significantly higher than petrol. I remember a time when it was the other way around. Petrol was more expensive than diesel. So running a diesel car became quite expensive. But if we put all those things to one side and just talk about the characteristics of a really great diesel engine like I've got in this Defender. So this Defender is the D300 variant, and it has a 3 litre straight 6 diesel engine, 300 PS and buckets of torque. One of the great things you get about diesel engines, because of the way the combustion cycle works, is you get huge amounts of torque, and that means that you've got this on-tap wafting ability. It's a phenomenal engine, the engine in this car. And when you get in one, and I hadn't driven a diesel for a long time, and then I drove the F-Pace 3 litre diesel, which actually has the same engine as this car, about 18 months, 2 years ago, and just thought, wow, why aren't we driving diesels more? And then I had my Ford Ranger, and that had a diesel. It was a smaller diesel that was maybe being pushed a little bit hard to drive or to power such a large vehicle. But this engine in this car, it's just a stunning engine. And then right now in the UK, the cost of diesel is the same pretty much as the cost of petrol. There's like 1 or 2 pence per litre in it. And one of the big advantages you get from diesel engines is they're really efficient. Maybe not in this car, you're not going to be getting 60, 70 miles to the gallon in this car, more like 30 to 35 on a long run, because it's a big, heavy SUV format car. But you get a modern day clean diesel engine in a small hatch or saloon format car, and you can drive for, I don't know, 600-700 miles on a tank of fuel. They're phenomenal things. So I wanted to do this film because I just wanted to kind of have a conversation about a modern day diesel engine. And I am talking modern day diesel engines. If you look at the older, less efficient, less environmentally friendly diesel engines, you may well run into problems with those with ultra low emission zones like the ULEZ zone in London. This Euro 6 engine is fine for that. And there are some cities that are just banning diesels full stop. So you may well end up being restricted as to where you can go. But diesel engines still have a role to play in our transportation systems today. I'm convinced of that. Especially if you live in a... Now, let's go back to the particulate thing. If you're on quite short drive cycles, diesel engines, the particles that come out of the exhaust pipe, once that those that get through any filters, because you're driving at slower speeds and you're in built-up areas, if you are using it in an urban environment, and they do contribute significantly to air pollution and those types of things. Out in the countryside, firstly, you tend to be driving slightly quicker, your engine's operating more efficiently, it's generating less particle emissions, and they disperse more quickly, so actually and more effectively, so they're less damaging to humans and the environment in terms of air and so on. And plus, if you live out in a rural environment and you have a car like this, you're more likely to need the things that diesel's brilliant at. You may well be towing a horse box or a caravan or a trailer. You may well need to be moving large amounts of stuff around. And that's where diesel's just become a brilliant option. And I think it's only because I've now spent a bit of time. I had 6 months with the Ranger, that was diesel. I've now had about a month with this Defender, this is diesel. And I absolutely love the engine in this car. It's one of the best characteristics of this car. And I just don't want people to discount diesel because it's diesel. Read about it, do your research. And there's always going to be people on both sides of the argument, right? There's going to be people that say that diesel's great, and I'm trying to put that argument forward that it's not to be discounted. There's going to be some people that say it's an environmental disaster to have a diesel car. But they're still legal, right? We can still make them and buy them until 2030, and then we're just petrol hybrids till 2035, and then we're full battery electric or any other green fuel, maybe like, I don't know, hydrogen combustion. But yeah, don't discount the diesel engine, because I think they're great. I would love to know what you think. Put it in the comments below. What are your thoughts on the good old diesel engine? For some use cases, they are absolutely brilliant, and to be honest, hard to beat. And even if you asked Land Rover and people in the industry, if we look at the Defender, there's an argument to say that a Defender with the D300 diesel straight six is probably the best combination of vehicle and engine in the range. Phenomenal, phenomenal thing. Anyway, I'm going to battle through this rain because it's proper grotty. Put in the comments below, what are your thoughts? But if you enjoyed this video, give me a thumbs up. Comments below are always welcome. And if you haven't done so already, please subscribe to Petrol Ped for plenty more content to come. And I'll see you on the next film. You take care, guys. Drive safe.